I am throwing out the first pitch at Salem's Field here in downtown Buffalo for a AAA Buffalo Bisons.
Nope. I'm just gonna put my foot on the floor and I'm not lifting until I see God or a checkered flag.
All right, a very special and different episode of the Racing with KLAS podcast. We're completely remote on this one. It's our first time that we're completely remote like this because Andy has a very special thing happening tonight. What are you doing tonight, bud?
I am throwing out the first pitch at Salem's Field here in downtown Buffalo for a AAA Buffalo Bisons. One of the bigger teams in the AAA. The minors were the farm team for the Toronto Blue Jays. We lost out to the Miami Marlins for an MLB franchise in 1988. We were the next one that was supposed to get one, and whatever. I feel like we should have got it because they probably got like 6 fans going to those things now. But I think they won a World Series, so I guess I can't knock them too much. But we got a really cool deal here. We were invited to do this with from Watkins Glen and some cross promotional stuff that we're doing with them. With me living close by, they've included me in a lot of their promotional stuff, and this is part of it. So we got our Ted Marsh wheeling car, KLAS Motorsports 73 on display out there, Casey Energy Decks markets and all the goodies. So she's out there on display. I lowered it down so it looks like it's going really fast. I took like 20 turns out of each jack screw as soon as I unloaded it, and it looks like it's going down the back straightaway at Talladega right now. So it looks pretty fucking sweet. And yeah, we're like downtown. Our stadium is like downtown. You can see the big buildings behind me and all that. So it's a beautiful ballpark. It's a cool deal. And yeah, a lot of history here with Buffalo baseball. So it really is an honor to be included in all this and throwing out the first pitch. And I've been practicing and hopefully been kind of going back and forth. And if I want to stand on the mound or not, I think I'm gonna go for it. Why not? If I what if I stand too close and then I miss the throw anyway, then it'll be like twice as bad. So at least if it doesn't go good, I'll know that I, sacked up and went on the mound, went for the 60 feet. So I think that's the plan.
All right. Well, we'll make this one a short one, and I'm sure we can get some video from tonight. We'll include it in this episode because I think it's going to be fun. Just a couple of things. First of all, depending on how it goes, you may be on social media whether we do it or not.
If you're watching this and there's not a clip by the end of it, you know that it didn't go good, and I just won't allow it. I'll break everyone's phone. I can do it. I swear I can do it. I can do it 9 out of 10 times. We've been doing this all week. So everyone, all my many father figures have all, my Tico, everybody's been coaching me a little bit, and Bill Card and all these guys have, got some, it's a, being in racing, there's a lot of people involved with sports, right? So there's, I've got plenty of mentors available to me that know a thing or two about throwing a baseball. So everyone had their moment to try to coach me a little bit. So goal is not to overthink it. I apparently have a strange throwing motion, I've been told, but if I clean it up, I throw a better ball, but I'm less consistent. So I might just stick with what works, and it might be a little bit of a rainbow, but as long as it gets over the plate, I'm going to call it a W, and we're going to move on to Lancaster tomorrow.
All right. A couple of things. First of all, Charlotte was a lot of fun. We've had a lot of people that really thought the right after the race interview was good, and it was really awesome to be able to do that with you. We're not going to focus on it, but we do want to address there were some rookie mistakes by some other drivers that caused a little bit of commotion on social media. We're not going to kick a man while he's down. We're not here to do that. I made a promise that we wouldn't. But I will say, I guess this is ARCA, right?
Yeah, it's a stepping stone division to the big three. Obviously it's a national touring series, so it takes a lot of steps to get here and doing everything. So, but this is for a lot of people, this is the first time that you're going to go to a mile and a half with 600-700 horsepower, whatever they give us, and have to shift through 3 gears. And I don't rookie mistakes happen, and like you said, we won't kick anybody while they're down. So it's gonna happen. Hopefully, fortunately, we kind of snuck our way through it, but it was funny. I called it on the radio, and everyone on the team seemed to agree. It was a situation where, one of the inexperienced drivers didn't pit, and they were going to restart on the front row, and old tires and trying to get going on one of them restarts with without a restrictor plates definitely I knew it was going to be a new experience, and I kind of had my eyes open, and luckily I was able to evade that one with the help of my spotter Charlie Brown, and we had a little bit of damage. I don't think it did us any favors as the race went on there after I got a chance to get out and look at it. Mostly the underbody crush panels in the back, just letting air escape up into places you don't really want air. So, it's hard to say exactly what that probably did to the car, but I'm sure it didn't help. And if anything else, if it didn't change the handling, I'm sure it hurt straightaway speed. So, but we came through it better than a few guys, and those things will happen. So we were able to keep going, and yeah, got to be out there at the end, so that's what counts.
All right. The new Earnhardt series on Amazon Prime. I went ahead and watched all 4 episodes. I know you got to watch at least 1 episode. What are your thoughts so far?
I watched the first one to get myself pumped up for Charlotte, and
It showed.
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I went like balls to the wall for about 15 laps and burned my tires up about every time they gave me new tires. So we were, I don't know, I think we challenged for second on the track once. You drove up to third. We were definitely hauling ass. So I definitely got a charge from it. It's a story that tells itself if you just tell it the right way, and it's there's poetry in the tale and the way they're kind of telling it. And this was a man that just loved racing and had something to prove, and was seeking his father's approval, and was never going to be satisfied. And and I think I think maybe some of us can relate in that way, and just you know never never feeling fully satisfied with what doing, that kind of being a driving force behind successful people. And certainly Earnhardt didn't have anything in his head other than he was gonna race and make his dad proud. And um and he's a man that broke his neck in a crash at age probably 47, and would not get out of the race car, finished the year out with a fractured neck. It was pinching a nerve, and his right arm would go numb as the race went on, and he'd have to drive with one hand to finish the race out. This is a 47-year-old man. You're earning $19 million a year and 7 cup championships at that point, that didn't have anything left to prove, but racing was everything. And I think there's an awe-inspiring thought to that just that man only wanted to race. And there's a it's a tragedy that he lost his life when he did, and not being able to kind of see him transition into the next part of his life. But I don't know, it's a story within itself, though, because he just raced, and obviously he lost his life. And um we don't get to know what that story would have looked like. The only Dale Earnhardt we know is the man that was never going to let go of that steering wheel. And they're telling that story, and I think they're being very honest about it too. And they're telling, because he wasn't perfect. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes for him to get there, where he had 2 failed marriages, and everything that was going on with his kids. And I haven't gotten to, because they're talking about, Dale Jr. and Kelly. And I know eventually they're going to get into, the story of Kerry from his first wife. And, I'm sure there was a lot of heartache, going around that, but he was out there chasing the dream. And, if you'd have met him in the 70s, and, everything that was going on, you'd probably, say that would be a little bit foolish to give up this family life. And but at the end of the day, he becomes the greatest race car driver ever to live. And I don't know. You know, he is a flawed hero though, and there's parts about his story that, you know, might not, you know, you got to be honest about it, right? It's interesting just telling that story, but I think that's why he's everyone's hero. It's certainly why he's my hero because, you know, that man was just born to put that helmet on and flip them goggles on, and he was just born to race. And there's just poetry to it. So it's cool that they're telling the story. And you know, I've watched the first episode and I kind of got a feel for, you know, from some clips on how the rest of them are probably going to go, and the way they're trying to tell the story, because you tell the story 1,000 different ways. And you know, you can tell the good parts and leave out the bad parts and make it sound a certain way, but you know, they're being honest about it. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of see how it looks.
All right. Last thing I've got for you. Tony Stewart, in a recent interview, said that he doesn't think the Daytona 500 means what it used to mean because there's guys winning it, that's the only race they win. And he thinks there's a little luster that's come off of the Daytona 500. And then I was reminded that the guy we're just talking about doesn't have a whole bunch of wins at the Daytona 500. I don't know if I agree with Tony on that, but there has been some guys that's the only race they win in a couple of years, and it probably guarantees their seat for a little bit longer. But what do you think? Daytona 500 is still the best race to win?
Of course, it's the best race to win. It's the Daytona 500. Well, what would you pick?
I
I don't know. You know, Tony's always spoken, and Tony's as true a racer as there ever will be. But I don't know that I, you know, always, you know, align with his thoughts on things. I think if you got to be honest with yourself and say that, you know, restrictor plate racing it does kind of even the playing field a little bit in certain ways. You know, the cars are a little bit simpler to drive, and you know, the teams that don't have the same resources, it's a lot easier to make a car low drag than it is to add downforce, you know. So I think it is the great, you know, evening factor. So there's probably guys that get in the mix for one of those races to win a race that, you know, you might not typically see up front. I think it's fair to be honest about that, but I don't give a shit. You win the Daytona 500. You won the Daytona 500, and that is, you know, I don't care what you say. There ain't a driver alive that, you know, if you're just talking NASCAR, wouldn't say that's the race they want to win. Like, you know, the challenge of winning like a Southern 500 might be greater in a lot of ways. You know, there's probably some parts that are easier, you know, because, you know, while the Daytona 500 is the great, you know, evening factor, it also brings, you know, there's 30 cars that could win that race instead of 10. So if you are one of the guys that, you know, has the most resources and has the best team, you know, you only got to beat 9 other guys. And you look at a guy like Tony Stewart that never won a Daytona 500, and he's one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history. But, you know, you enter you know, the roulette crapshoot of going to Daytona, and there's a lot of factors that you got to deal with, and you gotta overcome that big crash. You gotta miss that wreck. You know, you gotta be in the right place. You gotta know when to make your move. You gotta know when to block, when not to block, what spot you want to be in. I mean, it's a chess match. So I don't know. You know, I won't sign up for that. You know, I think that the skill set it probably takes to win a Southern 500 or a Coke 600 is different, but there's still a very unique skill set that applies to those super speedway races. And you see guys that do really good on the super speedway races that maybe you don't see win it, you know, because they are good at it, you know, maybe a little bit better at that than they are, you know, different forms of racing, you know. I mean, it's not an accident, you know. You see like, you know, like a Ricky Stenhouse, and, you know, I'm sure you can probably make up in your mind who he's picking on just from reading it without knowing a damn thing. And, you know, but you look like, you know, guy like Ricky Stenhouse finds his way to the front of them damn things, you know. Michael Waltrip, like, found his way to the front of them damn things. He knew when to make the move. He knew what to do. He knew how to miss the wreck. And, you know, that's his big trophy on the shelf. I ain't taking it away from him.
All right. That's all I've got. Excited for tonight. Don't worry. If it looks bad, it's okay. I'll be nervous for you, and we'll see what happens.
I don't know. I'll make it. I ain't worried about a damn thing. If I start worrying about it, that's when I won't make it. So I'm just, I'm going to walk out front here. I'm going to sign some autographs, and we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. So it's just really cool to represent Buffalo. I love my city. If you're from Buffalo, you love Buffalo. It's I don't think there's a greater community of people that love and support each other. So being part of this for me it's a really cool deal, and you know seeing that the city knows what we're doing, and sees me, a Buffalo kid, with this awesome opportunity at KLAS Motorsports, and everything that we're doing, being recognized for it's humbling for me. It's really cool.
All right. Well, fam, we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, brother.